Hey everyone, welcome back to Corporate Decoder, the place where we decode the confusing jargon of the business world and sometimes uncover a few surprises, like maybe not meeting your rent but for a whole company. Today we're diving into a filing from Enveric Biosciences, and it's all about a little hiccup with the Nasdaq, that fancy stock exchange where big companies list their shares. Think of it as a club with strict rules, and Enveric might be getting a not quite meeting the requirements notice. So what's going on here? Essentially, Enveric Biosciences got a letter from Nasdaq. This letter says they're not meeting one of the main rules to stay listed on a specific market called the Nasdaq Capital Market. Nasdaq has these rules to make sure the companies trading on their exchange are generally stable and healthy. One of these rules is about something called stockholders' equity. Think of stockholders' equity as the company's net worth, or what's left over for the owners if the company sold all its assets and paid off all its debts. Nasdaq wants companies on this particular market to have at least $2.5 million in stockholders' equity. Now, Enveric's latest report from June of 2025 showed their stockholders' equity was just under that mark at $2.18 million. That's why they got this notice. It means they're not quite up to snuff on that specific requirement. Nasdaq actually has a few ways companies can show they're solid enough to be listed. Besides the stockholders' equity, they can also meet certain standards based on market value of their stock, or if they've made a certain amount of profit from their core business in recent years. Unfortunately for Enveric, they don't seem to be meeting those other options either right now. But don't panic just yet. This notice doesn't mean they're kicked off Nasdaq tomorrow. Nasdaq is giving them a chance to fix this. They have 45 days until October 10th to come up with a plan. This plan needs to show Nasdaq how they're going to get their stockholders' equity back up to the required level. If Nasdaq likes the plan, they might give Enveric an extra 108 it happen. Enveric says they're definitely planning to submit that plan by the October deadline. They'll be watching their stockholders' equity closely and exploring different ways to meet the requirement. Now you'll see this section in almost every filing. It's basically a disclaimer saying that the company isn't a crystal ball. They're talking about future plans and expectations, but actual results could be very different. They're just saying, look, we're trying our best to predict what will happen, but things change. They also mentioned they aren't obligated to issue updates if things change after this report is filed. And finally, here's the signature part showing who officially signed off on this report. It's dated August 29th, 2025, and signed by Joseph Tucker, the Chief Executive Officer. Looking at this filing, the main story is clear. Enveric Biosciences is facing a delisting warning from Nasdaq due to not meeting the minimum stockholders' equity requirement. This is a common issue for smaller companies, especially those in developmental stages like potentially biotech. The good news is they have a clear path to try and rectify the situation by submitting a compliance plan. The bad news, if that plan isn't accepted, is that they could face serious consequences for their stock listing. For Enveric, the most important thing is to find ways to increase their equity. This could involve raising more capital through selling more shares, which can dilute existing shareholders, or perhaps by improving their financial performance to grow their retained earnings. Their ability to execute on their business plan and generate revenue will be key in the coming months. The challenge is that right now they're not meeting the basic financial health metrics Nasdaq expects for continued listing on this market. This could make it harder to attract investors and could even affect their ability to operate smoothly if they're not seen as stable. It's a bit like trying to stay in a fancy club. You need to keep up with the membership dues and rules. Enveric is currently on notice for not meeting those rules. We'll have to see if their proposed plan passes muster with Nasdaq. Alright, that's our breakdown of Enveric Biosciences' latest filing. What's your take on these numbers and what they signal for the company's future? Drop your thoughts in the comments. If this analysis was valuable, hitting that like button really helps, and subscribe for more deep dives. Don't forget to check out the Discord in the description. Thanks for watching. See you next time.